And they basically just wiped the slate clean. In Illinois, I bet you didn't know this, in 2005, we were one of the first states to get the casinos, riverboat casinos, one of the first states to get the lottery. In 2005, out of the House of Representatives, we passed a bill to recriminalize the casinos in Illinois. It passed, I believe, 67 to 42, about 2/3 vote in favor of recriminalizing the casinos. And it was only 2 lines long. It said the casinos are hereby eliminated, and any job losses, they have to help people find new jobs. Well, that passed through the House, went over to the Senate. Before it could go for a vote in the Senate, and it would have passed, our former governor now, who's just been impeached, Rod Blagojevich, the rumor is that he did not want to see that come to his desk. And so that was killed in the Senate. But it passed the House. Now, why did it pass the House? Well, I think everybody knew instinctively that this was bad economics, that we had lost billions of dollars in lost consumer money that had gone into the slot machines and then gone to Las Vegas or other gambling jurisdictions. We had lost all that sales tax revenue. And basically, the budget of Illinois right now is in very dire straits. They have not paid some of their bills, health bills and other bills for months. And if you have relatives in Illinois, perhaps you know that. So Illinois is not meeting its obligations. And it's exactly what we predicted would happen before the casinos came in 1990, 1991. So I hate to say this is what was predicted.
Are you one of those that, see, we told you so?
Well, I'm going to resist that. I'm going to resist that. But
well, let's talk about Illinois for just a quick moment here.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Hey,
let's go lighter here.
Blagojevich, my family, I have several relatives still there. They were so angry with this governor, and it just seemed to almost paralyze the state in terms of making decisions and moving things forward. How's Illinois doing now that he's gone? Is it turning real fast?
Illinois is going to have to go through some really tough times, and I think gambling, literally, when you have a lot of gambling in your state, I frankly, those are dollars out of the consumer economy. If you eliminate the gambling, it's dollars back into the consumer. You're pump priming your economy. So while everybody is going to go through tough times, I think Illinois is going to go through considerably more tough times because we've had so much gambling for so long, and I think it's been very detrimental to our tax base, to our tax revenues. You know, we haven't even mentioned some of the social costs from gambling, which are literally $3, $4, $5 for every $1 in benefits. It's what we call the ABCs of gambling.
Oh, you got a slide on
this.
Yeah.
There we go. And these are some of the studies that were put up during congressional hearings under oath, and it just summarizes all of the studies, the national studies for like the last 20 years or so, and it shows this ratio of $3, $4, $5 for every $1 in benefits. I just say $3 in costs for every $1 in benefits. And gambling will fail a valid cost-benefit analysis every time because it's taking money out. It's not producing any goods. Now, the industry says, well, there's a little bit of entertainment, and that's understandable, but 25% to 75% of all the money is coming out of pathological, addicted, and problem gamblers. And so you're really creating a whole new addicted public. So you've got the ABCs, new addicted gamblers, like drug addiction, according to the National Commission. New bankruptcies, up 18 to 42%, according to the studies. And new crime, going up 10% after the slots come and increasing thereafter. And let me mention a quick thing about lotteries, because you kind of broached that earlier. Lotteries are also sort of the marijuana or the camel's nose under the tent. If we go back 100 years, we see the Teddy Roosevelt generation joining with the progressives, and after the American Civil War, where there was widespread gambling and the Wild West, they basically wiped the slate clean. They said, we're going to criminalize gambling across the United States. They did it with federal statutes, but states did it not just in state statutes and local ordinances, but in state constitutional provisions because they wanted to make it as difficult as possible for future generations to experiment with this and go through what they had gone through. And so here we are now kind of opening up this can of worms again, and we're going to have to go back through the recriminalization process. And by the way, from a totally strategic aspect, if you watch the president's speech just a day or two ago, he's talking about the multiplier effect. If we were to take all these gambling dollars, do what Teddy Roosevelt's generation did, recriminalize the gambling, that would be a $100, $200, $300, $400 billion pump prime economic stimulus into the consumer economy. Because when people are playing those slot machines, they're not buying cars, refrigerators, TVs, computers. They're not spending it on education. And we really haven't even talked about some of the really tragic stories of people who've gotten hooked and committed suicide. I remember in Illinois, we had, within like 3 years after one casino opened up and this was on the front page of the LA Times, there was a couple that, an elderly couple, about my age, I guess that's not elderly, but retired, and they both had independently, as professionals, lost their entire fortunes gambling on this casino. Yes. And they entered into a suicide pact, and they both killed themselves in the suicide pact. And the coroner in that county actually had to issue subpoenas to the casinos to find out if, he couldn't understand why so many people, there were so many increased in suicides. And the casinos wouldn't release any information from their players' cards, types of cards. And I'm not referring to any particular card or casino, but according to the LA Times, they actually went there and found out that there was a connection between these suicides. And that's been later confirmed in academic studies, one out of the University of Southern California that says around these areas, the suicide rates are double, triple what they are in non-gambling areas. People lose their money, they become desperate, and it is an addiction. And people have forgotten that.
I met a woman once whose husband played cards, and he gambled like poker. And basically, he was so addicted that, you know, he put up their house and lost their house, and she was out on the streets. And I had met her one weekend and at some conference. And, you know, we just were talking over coffee, and, you know, she had moved out and she was on her own, but basically it was the addiction to playing poker that is what ruined their marriage and their life. And it was very sad story. So, you know, I mean, besides the millionaires or a lot of people with a lot of money, even your average working class person is potentially vulnerable.
Yeah, well, the lotteries they come in, they sell them and say, well, it's going to help education. Well, you know, we did studies on that, and the best one was done by Money Magazine, and it concluded that those states which had the lotteries actually had less funding in real dollars to education than those states which did not have lotteries or had less gambling.
Yes.
And, you know, and this is so basic, it's in the World Book Encyclopedia. I talk to my education friends, and they say, oh, the lottery, isn't it helping education? I say, go to the 1994 World Book Encyclopedia in every grade school, 1994 supplement, page 398. How's that for a memory? And it'll tell you, citations.
Yes.
And it will tell you that, that the lotteries have not helped education, because what happens is that as the money from the lottery goes into education, legislatures are then tempted to take more money out the back door that was already funding education.
Yes.
And it just happens because the PR says that the lottery is funding in the education, when in fact, and that PR, they live under that PR, and the money disappears.
Right. Well, we have a couple more slides, I think, to go.
Oh, we do.
And we're running out of time,
yeah.
so what's this one?
Well, this is one study out of Wisconsin, and this has been confirmed. It shows that people in what are called feeder markets, or the 35-mile areas around the casinos, and they call them feeder markets, are spending 10% less on food, 25% less on clothes, and 37% have raided their bank accounts in order to gamble. Now, I find that a big concern. And the other thing is, each slot machine takes $100,000 in per year on average. That, with a multiplier effect, is $300,000 in lost consumer spending to the regular economy. That's one lost job per year per slot machine. So I say to legislators, it's easy to remember. If they say we want 10,000 slot machines, that means you're going to lose 10,000 jobs per year out of your huge economy. And the social costs, combined with that, combined with the lost jobs, combined with the lost tax revenues, it's just lose-lose for everybody except the owners of the slot machines. They are going to make a huge amount of money. $100,000 a year per slot machine is a lot of bucks.
Well, Jon, you sure make a compelling case. I know we don't have that much time left, but is there something we haven't yet covered that you would like to
I would like to say what a pleasure it is to be here with you and to talk to a perhaps former alumni from Illinois, and we hope that we can steal you back one of these days. I can't imagine how we do that. I also do law of the sea and environmental law. Would you please invite me back for a hearing on any topic at all, particularly during the winter? I would just love to come back. You've been perfectly charming and very attentive to my point of view here, and as I've tried to present all of this documentation. And I just want to assure legislators that what I've said here is extremely well documented, thousands of footnotes and citations, and they're on solid ground when they do what they instinctively know is probably the right thing to go.
Okay. Well, you know, the name of this show is Now What? So, you know, I'm going to challenge you with that. You know, now what? What are you going to do next? What do you see as your kind of...
Well, you know,
yeah,
I'm a senior professor, and I said to myself 20 years ago, now what? And I said, you know, you ought to give back. I don't take any honorarium or consultant fees. My associates don't. And it's just about informing and educating the public. And this is a great topic to do. It's totally bipartisan. You've got people on Democrats, Republicans, the far left, the far right. We have what we call the two Ralph syndromes. Ralph Reed, formerly with the Christian Coalition, and Ralph Nader at the same press conference saying exactly what I'm saying to you all here today. So it's a great bipartisan issue. You meet lots of nice people, and I really appreciate you being so gracious.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So thank you for being with us and listening to this topic, and I invite you to follow it and keep informed on what the legislature is doing and how we're continue to discuss this topic, because I have a feeling it's not going to go away.
Invite me back anytime.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.